Virgo walks a path that feels unlike any other, carrying both a weight and a calling that sets them apart. Among the signs of the zodiac, Virgo is often seen as meticulous, careful, and endlessly concerned with the smallest of details. Yet beneath this surface lies a deeper truth. Virgo's way of living reflects a divine pattern, as if they were chosen to embody a certain order in the world. To call Virgo one of the chosen is not to flatter, but to recognize the blend of burden and blessing that shapes their journey. In every small act of correction, in every silent responsibility carried, there is the echo of something sacred. The image of the chosen one often conjures ideas of glory, power, or miracles. But in Virgo's case, the chosenness manifests in quieter, subtler forms. It is seen in the sleepless nights spent worrying for others, in the long hours of unseen labor that keep structures from falling apart, in the way they bend but do not break under pressure. Psychology helps us understand the human need for purpose and meaning, while spirituality reminds us that some carry this purpose as a mantle given rather than chosen. Virgo embodies this paradox, the chosen who did not ask, yet carries their mission faithfully. The 5 reasons that reveal Virgo as God's chosen flow not from titles or appearances, but from traits that cut deep into the human psyche. First, the burden of detail, the mind that cannot ignore what is broken. Second, the instinct to serve, the quiet devotion to others that becomes a sacred offering. Third, the fire of refinement, where perfectionism is not vanity but purification. Fourth, the voice of discernment, a sharp mind that separates truth from illusion. And fifth, the power of healing, where empathy and practicality join in the act of restoration. These 5 pillars are not random qualities. They are signs of a destiny woven into Virgo's very nature. As we begin unfolding these truths, it is essential to see Virgo not as a mere personality type, but as a vessel of divine order. Their story is the story of the hidden chosen, the ones who walk quietly yet hold the weight of harmony for others. And so the first reason emerges clearly. Virgo's burden of detail is not a flaw, but a sacred responsibility. The first reason Virgo walks as one of God's chosen is their burden of detail. This burden is not simply about being observant or organized. It is about carrying a heightened awareness of imperfection that others often overlook. Psychology explains this through attentional bias, the human brain's tendency to focus more sharply on flaws, gaps, or inconsistencies. In Virgo, this bias is magnified, almost as if they were appointed to act as guardians of order in a world that constantly slides toward chaos. What others pass by without a thought, Virgo cannot ignore. They feel compelled to notice, to adjust, to correct, because the disorder unsettles them at a level deeper than convenience. It strikes at the very core of their spirit. This makes Virgo's presence both a gift and a challenge. In everyday life, their ability to catch mistakes before they matter can save time, resources, and even relationships. They are the ones who read the fine print, who remember what was forgotten, who see the crack before it becomes a fracture. Spiritually, this capacity mirrors the chosen one's task of vigilance, of keeping watch when others sleep. Their eyes are tuned to notice, and in noticing, they preserve the integrity of what is fragile. This vigilance, though often misunderstood, is a divine assignment. Yet it is also heavy. Carrying this awareness means Virgo rarely feels fully at rest. While others can overlook errors and move on, Virgo's mind continues to circle, revisiting what should have been corrected. This constant alertness can easily become self-criticism, as the same sharp gaze they turn outward becomes a mirror reflecting their own perceived inadequacies. The detail becomes not just a point of correction, but a source of anxiety, an inner reminder of imperfection everywhere. To walk as chosen is to bear what others cannot, and Virgo bears this burden in silence more often than not. Picture a Virgo in a simple setting, a workplace, a family gathering, or even preparing a meal. While others focus on the general outcome, Virgo's eyes catch the small imbalance, the tiny misstep, the missing piece. For them, it is not trivial, it is sacred. Each detail connects to the larger whole, and by honoring the part, they honor the entire pattern. This is why the burden of detail, though tiring, becomes proof of Virgo's chosenness. They were not placed here to overlook, but to uphold, to keep order where disorder silently creeps. And from this burden, the second reason rises: the sacred instinct to serve, the natural extension of seeing so deeply into what others need. The second reason Virgo walks as one of God's chosen is their sacred instinct to serve. While many see service as an option or a duty performed only when convenient, Virgo carries it as a core identity. Psychology names this altruism, the innate drive to help others even when no personal gain is at stake. Spiritually, however, Virgo's service feels less like choice and more like calling, as though they were designed to be vessels of care. Their acts of service are often invisible, unnoticed by the world, but never unnoticed by the divine. This devotion shows itself in countless subtle ways. Virgo is the friend who remembers your struggles long after you've stopped talking about them. They are the colleague who quietly fixes the errors so no one else has to suffer the consequences. They are the family member who takes on the tasks no one else wants, not out of weakness, but because they cannot bear to see others burdened. In every gesture of help, no matter how small, Virgo reflects a higher principle: love expressed through action. Their service is not about glory, but about alignment with a greater order. Yet, this instinct carries challenges. Psychology warns of the danger of codependency, where one's worth becomes tied to how much they can give. Virgo often feels guilt when they cannot meet every need or when they prioritize themselves. The chosen path asks them to learn balance, to give without erasing their own existence. What makes Virgo's service sacred is not the endless sacrifice, but the purity of intention, the quiet offering of care without expectation of reward. Consider a Virgo who receives a late-night call from someone in distress. Without hesitation, they listen, comfort, and offer practical advice. They may even rise the next morning to deliver something tangible that eases the person's burden. To the recipient, it feels like an extraordinary kindness. To Virgo, it feels simply natural. This instinct is not performative, it is their essence. The truth of Virgo's chosenness is revealed in this humble devotion. Where others chase recognition, Virgo gives in silence. Where others measure worth by status, Virgo measures it by usefulness. Their sacred service transforms ordinary acts into holy offerings, reminding us that divinity is often found in the quietest hands. And from this devotion emerges the third reason Virgo walks as chosen: the fire of refinement, where their perfectionism becomes not punishment, but purification. The third reason Virgo walks as one of God's chosen is the fire of refinement. To the outside world, this often appears as perfectionism, a relentless drive to correct, polish, and elevate everything they touch. Psychology explains this as a cognitive pattern, the refusal to settle for good enough, while spiritually it mirrors the ancient idea of purification through fire. Just as gold is refined in heat until its impurities rise and are burned away, Virgo lives in a constant process of refinement. Their trials, their corrections, their self-imposed disciplines are not vanity. They are the sacred fire shaping them into vessels of clarity and strength. This fire is not easy to bear. Virgo often finds themselves caught in cycles of self-criticism, feeling that nothing they do is ever complete, never fully worthy. They see flaws where others see beauty, gaps where others see sufficiency. But this very discomfort is what drives their transformation. Their perfectionism is not about superficial control, but about aligning closer and closer to a divine standard. To walk as chosen means to live under higher expectations, and Virgo carries this mantle daily, often without recognition. In everyday life, this fire shows itself in the smallest details. A Virgo writer may rewrite a sentence countless times until the rhythm finally feels right. A Virgo parent may spend hours ensuring their child's world is safe, structured, and ready for growth. A Virgo professional may push themselves beyond exhaustion because they cannot bear to release work that feels unfinished. These moments may seem excessive to others, but for Virgo, they are acts of alignment, each refinement a quiet offering of excellence. The challenge lies in remembering that refinement is a process, not a destination. Psychology reminds us that perfectionism can turn destructive if it breeds paralysis or shame. The spiritual truth, however, reframes the process as holy. Virgo is not meant to arrive at perfection, but to embody the ongoing pursuit of it, to carry the fire that keeps purifying, testing, and elevating. This fire is what sets them apart, for it is both their trial and their transformation. Through this lens, what once looked like endless correction becomes sacred work. Virgo's refining nature is proof that they were chosen not to settle in comfort, but to rise through discipline. And it is from this fire of refinement that the fourth reason emerges: the voice of discernment, the divine gift of seeing clearly where others remain blind. The fourth reason Virgo walks as one of God's chosen is their voice of discernment. While others may move through life guided only by instinct or surface appearances, Virgo possesses a mind sharpened to separate truth from illusion. Psychology describes this as analytical thinking, the ability to process patterns, evaluate outcomes, and identify inconsistencies. Spiritually, however, this gift takes on a higher weight. Discernment becomes the divine trust given to those who must guard truth. To discern is not only to think, it is to hear the whisper beneath the noise, to see clearly when confusion clouds the path. This gift makes Virgo the seeker of clarity in a world that thrives on distraction. Where many are swept away by appearances, Virgo pauses, examines, questions, and tests. They are not satisfied with half answers or comforting illusions. Their mind compels them to search for what is real, even if the truth is uncomfortable. This often makes them appear skeptical or critical, but beneath that lies devotion to authenticity. They refuse to accept shadows as light, even when doing so would be easier. That resistance, though lonely, is a mark of their chosenness. Discernment shows itself in countless situations. A Virgo may listen to someone's words and quietly notice the contradiction in their tone. They may observe an opportunity that looks appealing, but sense the hidden cost others ignore. They may resist trends, choices, or relationships that glitter on the surface, yet conceal instability beneath. What others call overthinking is often their discernment in action, a constant scanning for truth in a world full of illusion. This gift, however, also brings weight. To see what others do not means Virgo often feels isolated, doubting whether they should speak or remain silent. If they speak, they risk being misunderstood. If they remain silent, they carry the burden of knowing what others overlook. Psychology calls this cognitive dissonance. Spiritually, it is the burden of the prophet, the one who discerns before the rest awaken. Yet in this struggle lies their divine purpose. Discernment is not about criticism, but about protection. It allows Virgo to guide, to shield, to align themselves and others with what is real and lasting. This voice of discernment is what keeps them walking as chosen, for they hold a light that does not waver in confusion. And flowing naturally from this clarity comes the fifth reason: Virgo's power of healing, where their empathy and practicality join to restore what has been broken. The fifth reason Virgo walks as one of God's chosen is their power of healing. This healing is not always dramatic or miraculous, but it is steady, practical, and deeply human. Psychology explains healing as the process of restoring balance, whether through emotional support, physical care, or mental clarity. Virgo embodies this through their natural empathy and problem-solving, blending compassion with action. They are not healers because they speak about it, but because their very presence repairs what has been fractured. Healing for Virgo is less about performance and more about alignment with divine purpose. Their gift shows itself in everyday ways. A Virgo listens deeply, catching what is unsaid in a friend's voice. They offer practical advice when confusion feels overwhelming, not to control, but to empower. They create order in chaotic environments, allowing others to breathe freely again. Even their smallest gestures, organizing, remembering details, anticipating needs, become forms of healing because they restore a sense of safety. Psychology calls this caregiving behavior, but spiritually it reflects the healer archetype, the chosen who carries balm in both word and deed. This gift does not come without cost. Healers often feel drained, for they carry not only their own burdens, but also those of others. Virgo, with their heightened sensitivity, absorbs the atmosphere around them and sometimes struggles to distinguish where their energy ends and another's begins. Their healing nature can lead to exhaustion, especially when they forget that they, too, need restoration. Yet this weariness itself is evidence of their calling. Chosen ones often give more than they receive because their purpose is tied to the survival of others. Picture a Virgo in a family or community setting. When conflict arises, they are the ones who step in, gently but firmly guiding toward resolution. When someone suffers in silence, Virgo notices the subtle signs and offers support. Their healing is not loud, but it is lasting. It comes not from speeches or promises, but from presence, consistency, and trustworthiness. Spiritually, this power of healing reveals why Virgo walks as chosen. They were not placed here to dominate or to dazzle, but to restore. Where others bring noise, Virgo brings calm. Where others scatter, Virgo gathers. Their healing becomes a bridge between the ordinary and the sacred. And it is precisely because of this role that Virgo also faces the trials of the chosen, the inevitable tests that shape and prove their resilience, which form the heart of the next chapter. The trials of the chosen weigh heavily on Virgo, shaping them through hardship and refining their strength. Psychology explains that resilience often emerges from repeated encounters with challenge, and Virgo embodies this truth. They are tested not once but many times, through criticism, through misunderstandings, through the crushing sense that no matter how much they give, it is never enough. These trials are not punishments but part of their preparation, for the chosen are never formed in comfort. Virgo's struggles carve the depth that makes their service and discernment possible. One of the greatest trials Virgo faces is anxiety born from over-responsibility. They feel accountable for things beyond their control, carrying burdens that others do not even notice. While others release easily, Virgo replays events, questions their choices, and seeks endlessly for the better way. Psychology calls this rumination, yet spiritually, it can be seen as the soul's training ground. Each loop of thought, though exhausting, becomes a forge that sharpens their awareness and teaches endurance. Another trial comes from their sensitivity to criticism. Because they hold themselves to high standards, external judgment cuts deeply, often wounding more than it should. But in these moments, Virgo learns humility, patience, and the ability to continue despite not being understood. The chosen are rarely celebrated at first. They are more often resisted, doubted, or ignored. For Virgo, this rejection is both pain and proof of their path, for it echoes the silence in which sacred labor is performed. Imagine Virgo in a workplace or family setting. They pour themselves into service, refine every detail, and act with sincerity, yet their efforts go unnoticed, or worse, questioned. The weight of invisibility settles in, tempting them to believe their labor has no meaning. But it is precisely in this invisibility that their chosenness reveals itself. What is unseen by people is not unseen by the divine. Their silent endurance becomes the mark of their sacred identity. These trials, though harsh, are the reason Virgo stands strong when others falter. Their suffering is not meaningless, it is formation. The chosen path is forged in fire, and Virgo carries its scars as proof of calling. With each test survived, their role as healer and guardian deepens, preparing them not only for their personal destiny, but also for the ways they love and shape relationships. From here, we step into the intimate realm of how Virgo's chosenness influences their bonds with others. In relationships, Virgo's chosenness reveals itself in unique and often challenging ways. Their instinct to serve and refine carries naturally into love, making them deeply attentive partners. Psychology explains this through attachment patterns, where the need to feel secure often translates into hyper-awareness of the other. Virgo listens not only to words, but to tone, gesture, and silence. They anticipate needs before they are spoken, creating a bond of care that feels both protective and nourishing. Yet this devotion can also feel heavy, for the same vigilance that guards harmony may become a constant reminder of imperfection. Love for Virgo is rarely casual. They approach it with sincerity, seeking depth and meaning. Their chosen path makes them cautious, for they know the weight of commitment and do not give it lightly. Once they open their heart, however, they give fully, with loyalty and consistency. Spiritually, their love reflects service not only to the partner but to the divine itself, as though the relationship becomes a sacred ground where refinement, patience, and growth are practiced. Still, there are tensions. Virgo's voice of discernment often manifests as critique, not because they intend harm, but because they cannot ignore what could be improved. Psychology calls this projection. They hold others to the same high standards they impose on themselves. A suggestion meant as help may sound like disapproval, leaving the partner feeling judged. Here lies the paradox of Virgo's love. It is born of care, but its expression can sting. Learning to soften delivery while maintaining honesty becomes their lifelong relational lesson. Consider a Virgo in a long-term partnership. Their partner may forget a responsibility or overlook a detail, and Virgo steps in with correction. The partner feels the sting, yet behind the critique is Virgo's deeper thought. I want to protect you from consequences. I want your life to flow more smoothly. This duality defines their chosen role in love, both protector and refiner, both servant and challenger. Spiritually, these tensions are part of the sacred mission. Virgo's presence in relationships teaches patience, teaches growth, and invites their partners to embrace refinement. In return, Virgo learns that love does not demand perfection, but presence. That intimacy is not only about fixing, but also about being. And as they discover this balance, their quiet loyalty shines as a divine gift. Yet, despite their devotion, much of Virgo's glory remains hidden, a secret strength revealed in the next chapter. The hidden glory of Virgo is one of the most profound signs of their chosenness. While other signs may shine through bold gestures or dramatic presence, Virgo's strength often remains invisible, veiled beneath humility and service. Psychology shows us that those who operate in support roles are frequently overlooked, even though their contributions sustain entire systems. Spiritually, this mirrors the pattern of the hidden chosen, those who labor in silence without recognition, yet whose impact is immeasurable. Virgo carries this mantle with grace, embodying the truth that divine glory often dwells where human eyes do not look. This hidden glory appears in the quiet constancy of their actions. They hold families together through unseen sacrifices. They stabilize workplaces with their diligence. They heal communities with small yet consistent acts of care. These deeds may not bring applause, but they create ripples of order and peace that spread far beyond what can be measured. Virgo rarely announces their labor because they are not driven by recognition. Instead, their motivation comes from an inner knowing that order must be restored, that care must be given, and that truth must be preserved. Yet this invisibility can be painful. Virgo sometimes wonders if their efforts matter, if anyone notices the countless details they guard. Psychology explains this through the concept of recognition hunger, the human need to feel seen and valued. Virgo feels this deeply, but their path as chosen often requires walking in shadows, trusting that what is hidden before people is illuminated before God. Their glory is not denied. It is simply veiled until the appointed time. Imagine a Virgo in a group project. Others may take the credit, celebrating the outcome, while Virgo's countless corrections and late-night work remain unspoken. To outsiders, they appear ordinary, but in truth, they were the thread holding everything together. This is the hidden glory, the quiet assurance that without them, the structure would have collapsed. Spiritually, this is not a punishment but a mark of chosenness. The chosen are often hidden, prepared in silence, and revealed only when their role becomes indispensable. Virgo's hidden glory is their strength. It ensures humility, it refines intention, and it anchors their identity not in applause, but in purpose. And it is in this humility that Virgo's prophetic destiny unfolds, leading us into the final vision of their divine path. Integration is the final step in understanding why Virgo walks as one of God's chosen. The 5 reasons: detail, service, refinement, discernment, and healing are not isolated traits, but threads woven into a single tapestry. Together they reveal a destiny marked by both burden and blessing. Virgo does not simply notice details, they guard order. They do not merely serve, they offer sacred devotion. Their perfectionism is not vanity, but purification. Their analysis is not skepticism, but discernment. Their care is not simple kindness, but healing. When viewed as a whole, these qualities point unmistakably to a path chosen and consecrated. Numerology adds a symbolic confirmation to this truth. The sequence 111 often signifies manifestation, the alignment of thought and creation, a reminder that clarity becomes reality. The sequence 777 represents divine favor, the assurance that unseen forces bless and guide the journey. These numbers echo Virgo's destiny, chosen to manifest order where there is chaos, and chosen to walk under a hidden yet undeniable blessing. Their path may be quiet, but its power resonates far beyond appearances. Prophecy speaks not of dates or dramatic revelations, but of archetypes, and Virgo's archetype is essential for the collective. In a world overwhelmed by distraction, noise, and disorder, Virgo embodies the counterforce of attention, silence, and alignment. They are the guardians of the unnoticed, the servants of the forgotten, the healers of the broken. Their chosenness is not about privilege, but about responsibility. The responsibility to keep balance where others lose it. Picture Virgo at the threshold of a symbolic gate. Behind them lies a trail of trials, unacknowledged labors, and quiet sacrifices. Before them shines a light, not dazzling but steady, illuminating a path that others will follow. They walk humbly, carrying no crown, yet carrying the invisible weight of countless lives they have touched. This is the walk of the chosen, unseen by crowds but honored in heaven. And so the decree is clear. Virgo is chosen not because they demanded it, but because their nature bears the signs of divine selection. They walk as healers, as guardians, as refiners, as servants of truth. Their destiny is not ordinary, for their hidden labor sustains extraordinary order. To understand Virgo is to recognize the sacred within the humble, the divine within the quiet. And to walk as Virgo is to walk as one of God's chosen.